All right. So if you're ready, we'll just get into it. The way I like to start these is hear your story. So if you could tell me a little bit about you growing up and what was your diet like? What was your family's nutritional awareness like when you were growing up?
Okay, wow. That's an interesting story to tell for sure. Um, I was actually born in the South, in South Carolina,
Uh-huh.
but I was raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
My mother went home to have me, and her mother was still living in the South at the time, right? So that's to say that I really, really have Southern roots as the backdrop for my family. My father was born in Mississippi, my mother in South Carolina. So that influenced the food lifestyle, so to speak, the eating. I don't like to use the word diet because it starts with the word die, and we're talking about living, right? Living.
I like
So
that.
the living lifestyle. So I grew up in a home with a typical Southern diet. I mean, everything from the pork chops to the ham to the bacon, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And but the one thing I can say that I really believe helped set me on the path, believe it or not, that I'm on now, is that my parents came from a background of eating real whole foods. So if you were going to have collard greens or beans, things like that, you quite often pick those things or you grew them yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's what they did a lot in the South. It wasn't all the processed foods and such. So I'm from a generation where I did not grow up with a microwave. I'm from a generation where we didn't use a lot of frozen foods, things like that. So, so when we had a holiday dinner, for example, there might be 4 or 5 meats on the table, but believe me, there are probably 10 vegetables. And they're real vegetables, like from the garden tomatoes, beautiful things like that. Always we had fruit at home, things like that. So my mother and father believed in providing whole, real foods. All right. So then, move ahead. I get growing up. I spent a year in New Zealand as a foreign exchange student. This was beautiful, beautiful. A place that had 90 million sheep at the time, but only 3 million people. But it was gorgeous. It was like paradise. And I grew up in the city. This was during almost my last year in high school. So I'm like, people live like this? It was so
That's interesting. What drew you to New Zealand?
It was the luck of the draw. I mentioned to a chemistry teacher I had in high school, I said, oh, I'd love to travel. And of course, by this time, I had not traveled much because my parents didn't have the means for us to take, exotic or long vacations, things like that. So I was just saying that to her. Lord, she says, do you really mean that? I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to travel. So in the next few days or next week, I can't remember when, it's been many years, she comes back with an application for the AFS program, American Field Scholar Program. Apparently she was very much involved in this program. I'm like, wow, okay. So I fill it out. After a while, I get interviewed, da 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 da. Then sometime later, I receive a letter in the mail that says, well, you've been selected for the American Field Scholar AFS program, and you're going to go spend a year in New Zealand. Well, I know people heard me up and down the block screaming. I'm jumping up and down, right? Like I know where New Zealand is and anything about it, right?
I love it. I love it.
Oh my God, what language do they speak? I didn't know if I needed to learn a new language. I just knew I was going, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, so fortunately they spoke English, or maybe not fortunately, in a way, it would have been nice to have learned a language. But they spoke English. I stayed for a year. Oh, you talk about phenomenal experience. It was wonderful, wonderful.
Beautiful.
Now, at this time, I had stopped eating pork. So that was interesting because that had to do with some classes and things my father and my sister and I took. Now, so that was a very interesting thing in my family because my mother did not stop eating pork, but my sister and my father and I did. So that was like, ooh, that put a tailspin into the cooking regimen and things like that because, of course, Southern cooking is pork and this, pork and that.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting time. But one thing that did happen during that trip was I met one of the families I stayed with. Their older daughter and her husband were vegetarians, and I mean they lived close to the earth. People would probably call them hippies. And so that was a very interesting thing. So that was something that started some wheels turning in my head. Because at the same time, I visited a farm, and I was there during the birthing season for the lambs, right?
Okay.
Beautiful little innocent lambs being born, and they just living on grass. And I started thinking, we're going to chop them up, right? Lamb chops, blah, blah, blah. So, again, this started turning wheels, and I'm like, oh my God, they're not doing anything to anybody, but we're going to chop them up. And so when I got back from New Zealand, I was almost done with high school, and I just started looking around at my family's health because I like to be very active. So in one day, I might bike riding, swimming, play tennis, all in one day. I just love to be active. It's a way to get around the city on my bike. So I'm looking at my family, and my mother is a master. I'm telling you, she could take a vegetable or something. She doesn't even know what it is, and turn it out, okay?
All right.
And same with my grandmother, and even my father would get in the kitchen. He worked factory jobs. They split their shifts, so somebody was usually home with the kids. So every now and then he'd get up and have to do breakfast or do pot of collard greens or something like that. So he could cook too.
All right.
But I started looking at the health of my family. And like many other families, there was obesity, and there was heart disease, and kidney failure, and cancer. And I'm like, this food tastes delicious, but if I keep eating like this, all this activity I love to do, that's going to be out. But I'm like, okay, this is the beginning of a long, long life. I plan to be here and get all the robust stuff, right? And so I said, okay, I need to make a decision. Am I going to keep it, quote unquote, enjoying this food, or am I going to live a life where I can have joy and health and therefore reach to be my best me, And
well,
so,
you know what, Sister, what interests me about that is that you knew immediately or intuitively that it was these foods that were causing people illness. So a lot of people never make that connection, but for you it was like right off.
Well, what also helped was the fact that in school I always took sciences. I was very interested in sciences. I was interested, in fact, when I started college, I was planning to go to medical school. So I was always science things always I was interested in. I can remember the day I was reading an article in the Milwaukee Journal, and it was talking about the fact that the cattle were being fed radioactive feed. And I'm like, I'm taking chemistry classes and things like that. I'm like, well, and I can remember when cancer came on the scene.
Yeah.
You know what? I can remember before anybody started talking about cancer every day, 24/7. I can remember that time. And all of a sudden, and I'm like, okay, so if the cows are being fed radioactive feed, I learned and understood from my biology classes and such that toxins and such reside in the flesh, especially the fat of the animals, and all muscle has fat in it, right? I'm like, it's not going to be when you get, if you get sick, it's going to be when you get sick. Right? So as I'm learning and reading about, now they're talking about genetically modifying the plants, right? I remember them talking about putting human DNA in rice. I remember when they were planning to do this, and how also, let me take a sip.
Yeah.
Some yerba mate.
Okay, yeah.
So I remember when they started, when I was reading how with the potato blight, and they started messing with the potatoes, and we got this one variety, and we're going to grow all of this one variety. Well, right. So when something came and attacked that one variety, it wiped out everything, So just messing with the ecosystem and messing with the way people grow things and the variety they were growing, and all of the air pollution and water pollution. I thought, people are crazy because these people who are making money, you and your children have to breathe this air you're jacking up. And you got to drink this water that's being adulterating and such. So all of these things were just like my mind's going and putting all these things together and then looking at the health of my family. I was like, oh no, not me. No, I've got to make a change. And of course I didn't have any children then. And I thought, well, if I ever have children, I want to be able to show them a better path. So it was a lot of things coming together. And then also this thing about this feeling like we don't have to eat these animals. They're not doing anything to us, and they're important to the ecosystem, right? You go and you take one thing out of the system, and you flip and mess up the whole system. You go and you eradicate certain bugs. Now you start messing with the food chain. Or you go and you eat this particular large animal, not only are you going to get jacked up because it has all these toxins that reside in its flesh, but now you unbalance that ecosystem, right?
Right.
So it was a lot of things. And having a science background really helped in helping me to put things together.
All right. Let me ask you, you had mentioned prior to this awareness dawning, you had given up pork. And was that decision kind of a spiritually motivated decision, or was it just, what was behind that?
It was. My father had a friend who was a Seventh-day Adventist. And so we had these, we started having these Bible sessions. He would come over, we'd just sit around the dining table, and we would just read these things. And then so we came to this part in the Bible where it talked about, swine. And I was like, wow, that sounds kind of scary, because right now I'm maybe about 11 years old or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, it sounds like something I need to avoid, right? Because to me, life's about balance. Even growing up young, you start to see that you just can't do anything and everything to your body. And so thinking about balance, okay, well, it's not a problem if I avoid that thing, because there's a zillion other things to eat. I even tell people that now. You got an allergy to something doesn't agree with your body, heck, you got a zillion other things that you can replace it with, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just till you figure out what's going on, or you just have to take it off your list of things you eat. Don't worry. If it's orange, there's 100 zillion other orange things you can replace it with. If it's yellow, the same thing.
Beautiful.
So, so the thing with the pork, that was the kind, and I'm not a quote unquote religious person. I call myself a very spiritual person, a very healing person. And so I'm not adherent to any one religion. I'm looking for truth. I want truth because that's what stands forever.
I like it. All right. So at 11, you give up pork, and then later on, would you say, at what age did you have this dawning awareness? Well, I guess it was in New Zealand. You saw these lambs getting slaughtered, and you're like, I don't know that I want to participate in that. So did you become vegetarian in New Zealand, or when you came back to the States?
No, it wasn't right away, and probably early in college. I made the total decision, and even before that, you just start having these feelings. So I can remember when I was probably about 12 years old, my father used to take us fishing when we were young.
Yeah.
And oh, what a joy and a treat that was, because the family was together. We'd leave town. We'd just drive a couple hours away to another lake, because we lived on Lake Michigan, of course. Milwaukee's on Lake Michigan. Mm. And it was just so much fun. And he'd yank these fish out of there, so how exciting. Oh, I caught something there,
Right.
But then I remember getting a little older and starting to have to clean the fish and chop off the head and thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And the fish would still be alive and they're gasping for air. So, of course, like I say, at that time, I didn't stop, but I was starting to have these feelings like, oh, this doesn't feel so good. Or when, starting to pluck the feathers out of a chicken, just the remaining little feather heads. Because in the store, my mother wasn't buying chickens with all the feathers, right? But you have to clean them up before you cook them.
Yeah.
And just starting to feel like, this is flesh. I've got flesh. And you talk about a chicken having a leg. My God, I've got a leg. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So all of these things just start to accumulate. And I love how you say dawning, because that's this waking up thing. I love that terminology.
Yeah.
So, early in college, because, now you're out, you're meeting different folks, and you're learning all these things about, philosophy in school, your freshman classes, and I just started putting things together and saying, I can change. I can make this change for me. It starts with me. If I don't want to accept the eating style of my family, it's not that I'm rejecting my family. It's rejecting something I think that's not good for me. And maybe it'll help be a role model for them. Because again, I know I'm not alone. All these health ailments and such, we see everybody's family has them. That's why all the hospitals are full. So I started saying that, yeah, I'm going to make some changes. I want to live a different lifestyle that's going to put more life into my lifestyle versus more style. People are so focused on putting so much style into their life. Where are you concerned about the life and the lifestyle, right?
I love it. Love it. All right. So, and I love what you just said there was, you know, this is not about me castigating or criticizing my family. It's like finding the healthiest thing for me, and if I can be an example, I will. But I'm not going to use this as some kind of wall to separate myself from my family. I love that.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about what did happen when you started to apply these principles. Did you, first of all, I guess, did you notice any health benefits? Like, well, I guess I should first ask you, did you, when you first transitioned away from meat, were you still eating like cooked vegetarian food, and like what degree were you eating raw? How much cooked? Was that an issue at all? And dairy as well.
Yes. So I have learned through the years, and this took me some years into being what I thought was vegetarian, that cheese is not a vegetable. An egg is not a vegetable, right? So dairy milk is not from vegetation, okay? But it's taken years for me to elevate and learn that. Again, you know, I'm almost 60, so I have
No way. No
yes.
way are you, no way.
So
Unbelievable.
well, thank you. But so those are some of the things that I do notice that I'm seeing in my family. I'm aging so much differently than the rest of my family.
Yeah.
I feel good. I'm not on medications, right? I don't worry about having to go for a checkup because I know I'm keeping my immune system up and I'm feeling good and I'm full of energy, right?
Yeah.
So when I transitioned, I said, okay, I'm going to do this in a stepwise process, right? So I'm going to give up beef first. I'm going to give up red meat first. Then I gave up the dairy. The fowl, the birds.
Yeah.
And then I gave up fish, right? And so many years, and then by this time now, I'm married, I have children. And so as I raised them, I was, eggs, we don't have to kill the animal. Dairy, we don't have to kill the animal. So for so many years, I thought, well, that's cool, right? And of course, I'm dealing with my family who's saying, when I was ready to have my first daughter, my maternal grandmother was still alive. She was like, you can't not feed that girl meat. They were so concerned that the children were going to be nutritionally, deficient. And I was like, so my first daughter was born. She's not getting meat, whatever. No ear aches, no ear infections, all those things people. And I nursed her too, which was pretty weird to the younger generation that I was a part of. The older ones from the South, they knew it was good. But they were still not used to seeing people do it because, hey, we live in the city. I'm not going to go around, blah, blah, nursing the child. But again, with my science and stuff, I knew that was the best food. That's why it shows up. It's
good for you. Good for you, sister. Let me ask you, since you mentioned that, how long did you breastfeed your kids? Was it like 6 months, a year, something like that? Or
it varied for each child because I was working full time. I was a university librarian, so I'm trying to get tenure or what's called continuing status for the librarians. So with each child, the shortest amount of time was probably 10 months. Maybe the longest was closer to a year. So I definitely went well over the 6 and 9 months. I had this thing of, okay, well, if they're in the womb at least 9 months, maybe I think one of my sons, the sons might have hung out for maybe closer to 10 months. But so I've tried to make sure that as long as I carried them, I made sure to at least nurse them. So all of them were, I'd say, past 10 months at least.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And did you find that they naturally, at about that time, started wanting more solid food?
I won't say naturally because they all
Okay.
want to hang on, right? But
Yeah.
yeah. So I introduced, cereal, things like that. Slowly, again, I've elevated. I've learned a lot more about foods and what would be better to, transition a child and things like that. But now I'm very much into coconut water and coconut. And so
Yeah.
I actually, I had a friend here, matter of fact, and she needed to, start giving the baby something other than the mother's milk because the mother was just like, I can't do it any longer.
Yeah.
So we came up with a formula, and we'll be marketing that as soon as we can get
Oh,
it.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I know that people are looking for other things because, come on now, these powders in the can, woo, they are just not on time formulas, really. They don't have all the nutrition. They've got chemicals in them that people don't need. And we don't have to do that. We've got refrigeration, so you can really freeze really good formulas for babies and skip all the chemicals. They're already born. Babies, I'm sure you're aware of this, are already born with over 200 chemicals in their body. They've actually withdrawn blood from, I guess from these newborns and finding out that they're already packed with chemicals. That's how much
Wow.
chemical world we live in. And they don't deserve that. We need to try
No.
and give them the strongest immune system and such when they get here to give them the best chance to avoid a lot of these things that are going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Let me ask you, Sister. Oh, and I should say for the audience, let's tell the audience your full name, which is
Oh,
Sistah Modupe. Is that correct?
perfect. Perfect. You
Okay.
got it. You must have been listening to me pronounce it.
Well, I was watching a little bit this morning, and I love some of the stuff you're doing. Can you tell for the audience, tell us some of the websites they can find you and any books you want to refer them to? Go ahead and just run through the list there.
All right. Yeah. I guess I never said I'm Sistah Modupe. And this is a given name, my name for my business and things like that. I'm Sistah Modupe, Raw Vegan Soul Food on Facebook. I'm Sistah Modupe, Raw Vegan Soul Food Show on the internet TV, and you can find my channel on YouTube, Sistah Modupe, and Sister is spelled Sistah, so I just make people have a flair, and it's very interesting to watch people because Americans are so used to only speaking one language or using, business grammar and things like that. We need to loosen up a little bit, so when they say my name, they've got to say sister, so it's fun and it's a way to connect with people. It's almost that way to bring down some walls. Like when people enter your home, you want them to take off their shoes. It's kind of a way to just start getting people to relax and be on the same level, right?
I
So,
love it. Love
yeah.
it.
So I'm working on a raw food prep book. I don't want to say cookbook, but prep book. And the whole philosophy behind my Facebook page and my show is that we want to feed ourselves on every chakra level, every dimension. And remember, we're 360 degrees. We've got emotions that need to be fed properly. We've got an intellect that needs to be fed properly. We have a physical body that is our vehicle here. Because people do need to remember, we're not these bodies. We're not these bodies. So whatever you look like, even whatever condition you may be in, it's not the beginning and end to you because we're spirits, we're lights, we're souls. And so this is just like our car we drive around in while we're here for this experience. And so the show, the Facebook page is about feeding ourselves on every level. So on the Facebook page, on the Sistah Modupe Raw Vegan Soul Food Show, we're talking about all kinds of things. We're talking about spirituality. We're talking about food. We're talking about co-ops. I'm going to have a dentist on to talk about natural dentistry. Who else have I had on the show? I've had a man on talking about how he started his business, a natural food store, talking about iridology. So we talk about healing modalities. We talk about, yoga, we talk about everything it takes for us to stay healthy and to elevate and expand. And that means you've got to take care of yourself on every level, not just about what you put in your mouth, But even what you put on your body, I just had guys who started Soapberry, Soapberri, 2 young guys, and in Taiwan, I guess these trees grow with these berries that will suds up, and what's more natural for putting on the body, and think about on a baby's skin. You don't want to put anything that is not just pure, natural, unadulterated, and if you can avoid to even heat it to make it as a product, that's even cool. Because remember now, that's all those enzymes. Our body absorbs anything with a molecule small enough to enter it. So a lot of these soaps and detergents that are manufactured, they got all these chemicals and stuff in them that will and do enter the body through the skin.
Yeah.
So again, the show, the Facebook page is about nourishing the body, the mind, the spirit, the intellect, all of it. All of it. We're going to talk about all of it because we're these beautiful, limitless beings. And so we have to nourish ourselves on all these limitless planes.
I love it. I love it. All right. Now, let me take you back to your kind of chronology, if you will. So it sounds like you started having kids, and you were a vegetarian by that time.
Yes.
And then it sounds like maybe as your kids were growing up, you gradually started dropping the dairy and the eggs. And I wonder, I know this is kind of a long trajectory for you, but can you tell the audience a little bit about what happened for you physically in terms of health as you shifted from eating animal products to getting rid of meat? How did that benefit you? And then as you gave up dairy products and eggs, how did that benefit you? And just tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So as I gave up the meat, I was noticing that I didn't have digestive issues that I had when I was eating meat. You know, things like constipation. Let's be honest here, meat has no fiber to help itself through your body. So things like constipation, things like stomach aches, you know, things like that. I've noticed, you know, not needing antacids, you know, for heartburn, all of those things because I learned the science of eating. People eat every day, 24/7, some people, and they don't understand the science of eating. So I used to get heartburn, and I didn't realize that I was drinking while I was eating, and this was causing my food not to digest properly, and so I was having this acid, and actually I found out it's not even acid. In the medical field, they call everything not what it really is, right? So acid reflux, I've learned, is not even acids. It's actually not having enough acid in the stomach, and so it's making things kind of sit there, and it's more like vinegar, almost like coming up, you know, when the acid causes damage, et cetera, et cetera. So I was noticing that I was not having those kinds of issues and problems. The more I dropped off things, the better my health became, the better my skin looked, the more energy I had, things like that. As I learned about eggs and dairy not being vegetation, and I dropped those things. I'll give you a great story. The last corporate job I had was in Tucson, Arizona. I was a librarian at the University of Arizona for a number of years. Moved out there, and now I'm exposed to these different types of plants. Everything from the cactus, because cactus bloom, they get flowers, different types of trees. Oh my gosh. I told people that I was taking antihistamines and things so I wouldn't get sinus headaches, so I could breathe, so that I wouldn't get congested in my lungs. Man, I was going to work, sitting in meetings and doing this, nodding, you know, because you take that stuff and it's making you nod. And I never even had to really take any of that stuff when I lived east of the Mississippi, but once moving west of the Mississippi to Arizona, now I'm exposed to a lot of different vegetation. My gosh. I'm nodding at meetings because the stuff is making me sleepy. I would have to stand up in the back of the meeting room so I could stay awake. I told people that I thought these poor people probably thought I was a drug addict. My head was dipping at the table, right? So I started going to a retreat, a holistic retreat. And that's where I was introduced to a fabulous raw chef named Sunshine. And I got there the first time I went. I got there in the evening at night, right? And so they already had their buffet out. Everybody else had eaten. They had a lecture going on. So me and my sister friends that I went with, we just go and we start piling our plates with food. And I'm like, eating this food, going, oh my God, all this food is raw. It is delicious. Of course, it was all vegan. And so I told him, I said, this food is great. I'd love to learn how to make this. So he said, okay, come on in the kitchen, right? Because, you know, at these retreats, they're always looking for more people to help out doing the food.
Yeah.
I went in the kitchen and I've never come out. So
All
I
right.
learned how to make this food. And I also learned that, hey, you need to give up the dairy, you know, I'd say eggs, that's not vegetation. And, you know, these animals are still enslaved to produce these products. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I thought of it that way, right? So once I gave up the dairy and the eggs and stuff, bam, no more allergies. None.
Wow.
None. I was on cloud nine, and I already thought I was doing really good as a vegetarian, right?
Yeah.
I would say, because I've been on this path for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Well over 30 years. And I just felt so great. I just couldn't believe that I had gotten this higher elevation, like a, you know, but not just a skip, but a huge hop, right?
Now
So I just felt so much better.
That's really interesting. Now tell me, it sounds like you gave up dairy and eggs. At this time, did you shift to completely raw, or were you still eating some rice and grains and bread, or how did that work out?
Okay, so again, I'm learning more and more about what works not only for my body, but what is a better way to eat, right? So in that sense, even things like fasting. I began fasting once a week many years ago, and that felt great. So a part of our lifestyle, I really, really suggest to everyone that they should fast regularly. And I don't mean long fasts, because long fasts are really something that you need to be supervised doing, because that is actually a challenge for the body, not only a challenge for the mind, right? You don't want to eat something or whatever. But short fasts are very good for the body, like a 24-hour fast, something like that regularly, because what it does is allow the body to focus on maintenance and repair. So, oh my gosh, it feels so good to do that. Just 24 hours without food. Just do water. So fasting is a very good regimen, and you can work up to more days. And like I said, if you're going to do more than, say, 3 days, you really need to let somebody know that you're doing it. You need to read up on it, and maybe even be supervised in some ways, because you don't want to damage your body. Because a lot of us are doing things now that are very foreign to the body. It's not like you grew up doing these things, so you want to transition into them in a way that they benefit you and not cause problems with the body. Even detoxing, because your body is naturally going to do that when you're not putting foods in. It's kind of like the smoker who stops smoking, and the body's all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I got a chance to throw off all these poisons. So now all the cells are draining out all these toxins, and it causes strain on the body. So you want to make sure that you're in good health when you do this. You don't want to be like sick, or you've got a health ailment you're working on, because that may be too overpowering for the body. So, yes, so as I've done these different things, I've just started feeling so much better. And, wow, just people who are having health issues. I was reading about, what's the actor's name? What's his name? He was on a bus, he says, and this woman looked at him, and he kept having all these acne problems. And she told him, Woody Harrelson, thank you. Woody Harrelson. I was reading his story. Have you read that story where he says he's on the bus?
Yeah.
And this woman looked at him and told him, and he says he had been to all these doctors, tried all these different things. And she looked at him and told him, you need to give up dairy. And he thought to himself, that's all I need to do to get rid of this? And so he's got this beautiful story. I suggest to people look him up online and read his story on how, because he's matter of fact, is he 100% raw? If he's not 100% raw, he's close to it.
I think he's vegan. He's definitely vegan. Yeah.
Right. And he says he just feels better. He says he has no problems with his skin any longer. Oh, wow. It's a beautiful story. And it's the story of many people, many, many people. We just love helping people to understand how they can elevate the way they eat and just change their life. And one of the big things I tell people is you can't keep doing the same thing the same way and want to see some elevation, some changes, some improvement. No, this is what's getting you to point A. If you want to get to point Z, you got to make some changes, right?
Hey, absolutely.
Right, right. So, yeah. So,
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. So the next thing I was going to ask you, let's see, this transitioning to completely raw. So can you characterize for us now what your regime is like? Are you like 100? Are you strictly 100% raw? Do you will you sometimes, like, let's say you go to a relative's house and they have some rice and beans or something, would you eat that, or are you kind of strictly, you try and stay strictly to raw? What's your take on that?
okay. So I do 100% raw part of the year.
Okay.
So there may be times, especially when it's hot and in the summertime, I don't want to see anything cooked, because when I do eat something cooked, I notice right away I'm sleepy. I don't have the energy, weight gain. My skin is not as clear, things like that. So I try to keep cooked foods to a minimum.
Okay.
If I go to visit my parents in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's 20 below, oh yeah, I might have to heat something up a bit, because I can, the chill. You just feel the chill, and I'm not
Yeah.
used to that. So, but what I do is I consult with people about their health and such. So if someone has a health issue, I tell them you need to at least do 90 days raw. This way, you're giving your body all it can get from the food. I put them on supplements, and I say, this is how you can turn this thing around. Now, when you get back into maintenance mode, and if you turn this issue around, then you may want to go back to a little cooked food. But you need to at least make sure that in a day, at a minimum, you're 80% raw. At a minimum, if you want to be optimal. Now, to be totally optimized, yeah, I do think that doing raw is the way to go. However, everybody's body's different. We talked a little about people either having allergies to something. Some people just don't like the taste of something. And I say, hey, that's fine. When I prepare food for somebody and they don't like a dish, it doesn't happen often, but it happens. And because everyone has different taste buds, or they're working up to eating more of the bitter foods when they have been on the sugar diet, way of eating. Well, I could almost say diet with, they're eating a lot of sugary things, because that's what it's doing to the body. So it can take some transitioning and some creative ways to try to get them to eat things that are more sour or tart or bitter, because I do understand that you really need to eat some of all those foods.
Now that's real interesting, Sistah. What's your take on folks who try to eat like a fruitarian? Do you think that that's too much sweet if they're eating all fruit all the time?
This is a good transition to understanding that when we say fruit, we mean food that has a seed in it, right? So people forget cucumbers are fruits. Bell peppers are fruits. So there are a lot of different foods that people don't think of as fruits. So with the fruitarian, someone who knows what they're doing to be a fruitarian, because you cannot become a wise, nutritionally optimized person, and that is something that we call ourselves teaching people to be optimized nutritionally. You can't sit around eating bananas, pineapples, and mangoes. That's too much sugar, particularly if you don't live in the tropics and you're not real active. Now, when you talk about someone who, say, is an athlete, well, not only can they eat a lot more of the higher glycemic foods, they need to. They got to get calories in. If somebody's a marathon runner, they got to get calories in, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody who's sitting at a computer all day, you're not hardly moving, so you can't even burn that up, right?
Yeah.
So people have to realize that when people talk about a fruitarian lifestyle, they're not just talking about sweet fruits. They're not talking about just tropical fruits, right? That's cucumbers and bell peppers and other foods that have seeds in them but are not high glycemic, don't have a lot of sugar in them.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. And let me ask you, when you do occasionally allow yourself some cooked food, either because it's cold weather or for whatever reason, what are some of the cooked foods that you think are acceptable?
I don't think people need to eat a lot of grains. And there are a lot of things that are called grains that are actually seeds. And if I'm not mistaken, things like quinoa, you know,
Yeah.
so things like that. And again, I don't suggest people eat a lot of those things because number one, I remember hearing a nutritionist say, leave the grains for the horses, right? Because again, those foods have such a high, carbohydrate load and sometimes calorie, well, maybe not so much calorie load, but carbohydrate load. People are not using their muscles enough to burn those things. So even if you're going to eat some things like that, you should make sure not to eat a lot of them. We need to eat a lot of greens. We need to eat a lot of fruits, not just the sweet fruits, right? And those are the kinds of things that we need to load the plate with. If you're going to eat a little cooked, eat them after your raw things and small amounts. And there are really creative ways to even eat those things, right? So, for example, if you're eating some grains, you need to sprout them. You need to sprout them. Okay, well, we're talking about cooked, right? So, but you can still sprout them and then cook them. You just don't let them sprout a very long tail because at least you pump them up some with some nutrition, right? And though, again, you're still going to get rid of the enzymes and even damage some of the vitamins, maybe there's something else that can get through there if you're sprouting, right? So things like the quinoa and the amaranth and things like that, some of the more ancient grains, I do think it's best for people to stay gluten-free because it causes a lot of damage in the intestinal tract and it causes a lot of allergies and things like that for people. So because a lot of grains have been monkeyed with so much in the lab, it's like, why even eat them? So, for example, like wheat. Wheat used to be around maybe 17% or so protein. Now it's like about 3%. Plus it's GMO like crazy. Plus it's one of the heaviest pesticide, insecticide, artificial fertilized crops. So, you know, if you're going to eat something like that, keep it at a super minimum. Make sure it's organic. If you're either doing like the wheat berries, go on and sprout them first, soak them and sprout them. And then if you're going to eat something like a wheat bread, which I say again, keep to a minimum, do something like a sourdough where a bacteria has worked on and transformed that particular thing. But if somebody I'm dealing with someone who has an ailment, some imbalance, they're trying to get back to balance and be centered, I tell them, no, leave it alone. It's too hard on the body to process. It's not the most nutritional food. So to get back in balance, you got to focus on the really nutritional stuff. Raw. Do raw.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to tell a story. I have a friend, and I met her when we had our restaurant in Inglewood. We had a raw restaurant for about a year. We're looking for a new space now. And it was called Lil Eden. Lil Eden. Okay.
All right.
And the people in the community were so happy. You'd have people come in every day telling me, oh, I can't believe this is in our community. Because this is more of a minority community, right? Black people, brown people. And they'd say, to find raw food, because that's what I serve, raw food, they'd have to go to West Hollywood, North Hollywood, Santa Monica, da-da-da. So they were just so happy. And it's like people say, oh, kids won't eat fruit or fresh fruit or they won't eat vegetables. Well, if you don't give it to them in a way that they would enjoy and let them be a part of the process, help them to understand the benefits, yeah, they might reject it, right? So people were interested in either getting off medication, avoiding going on medication. I was really busy with consulting with people because people had weight issues and they had heard of the promises of, doing raw food. So I had this one woman come in. She had acne, just horrible. She had a lot of makeup on so that to cover that. And for years she had been trying to find a way to deal with this acne. She also, her doctor wanted to put her on a cholesterol drug, and she's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So no, it's her high blood pressure. That was it. High blood pressure. So she came in and she started doing the raw food. And so I do a meal plan for her, and that's all she would eat. And not only did it just cause all this cleansing, She went back to the doctor, and she said that the nurse who was checking her blood pressure, you know, the nurse comes in, does this thing, and then they bring the doctor in later.
Yeah.
She said the nurse took her blood pressure after she had been on the raw food regimen and looked at her and went to get the doctor. She told the doctor, come in and see this. Her blood pressure had dropped like 30 points.
Wow.
30 points.
After how much time, sister?
This took less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
Now the same woman just came to me again. She said the doctor wants to put her on high blood pressure medication again. So she said, you are the only one who has been able to help me drop my blood pressure without going on drugs. So we did the raw food again. This time it was a week. She just called me the other day and told me, I wrote down the numbers. I can't find them right now. But her blood pressure dropped again about 30 points. She said,
I mean, it's so amazing that you could do it that fast. And then, and also, I think too, there's like all kinds of other aspects of the body that are being healed. You know, that the high blood pressure is the most obvious that the medical profession is treating, but there's probably all kinds of other things that are improving as well.
Exactly, because her skin. This is the other thing. So her acne just went, oh my gosh, it almost totally disappeared. It almost totally disappeared. So she knows what she's doing. You know, when I consult with people and we start talking, I say, well, you know, what's your lifestyle like? You know, everything from how you eat, how much stress you're under, da. And they'll start going like, well, I do this, but I know I shouldn't. And I do that. I know I should do this. And I'm just, after a while, all I have to do is sit back and listen. I said, you've got all the answers. You know what you should and shouldn't be doing. So she knows she's eating. She just falls off the wagon. And I'm just a way to help her back up on the wagon. So.
Well, now this is a whole huge topic, sister, and maybe you can shed some light on it. So this is a gal. Tell me if I got this right. She's the same lady. You sent her in once after 2 weeks. She gets her blood pressure down. Then it goes back up. She comes back to you, and it goes down again. So why is it that it seems people have such difficulty sticking to these things? I mean, is it family, culture, habit? Why does it seem like it's so slow for society to understand the value of this diet that obviously, you know, you've seen the benefits, you know what it works. So what do you address this fact that we can't, it seems challenging to get this truth out there and get it applied in a broad scale?
Well, it's all those things you mentioned. It's advertising, it's smelling things. Like me and you, we're going down the street driving, me and my husband are driving, and we smell, you go past one of these fast food chains, you smell all this grease, and it's like, okay, they just dropped something in the fryer. And we're going like, oh, roll up the windows, don't want to smell this. Well, other people are in the habit of associating that with feel good, deliciousness, etc. So it's a lot of habit, right?
Yeah.
It's culture in that people sit down at a Thanksgiving dinner, right? They're just used to those kinds of foods, those kinds of flavors. They associate it with family and good times and things like that. So it's habit, it's culture, it's being, like I say, bombarded constantly. You know, like women's magazines. I heard this person analyzing women's magazines, and they say on this front of every issue, there's a thing about the newest diet and the most decadent chocolate chip cookie, brownie, cake recipe. That's a formula. So there's a lot of manipulation of the mind and emotions that surround food, right? We eat with our eyes first. We eat with our nose first, you know. And so that's why when I talk about raw vegan soul food, which is we started this, that's our genre, brand new, because people have to realize you do need to feed the body, you need to feed the soul, but it's got to taste good, okay? That's what
right.
Like a lot of people when they go to raw food restaurants is that it's bland. And I go to, I'm not going to say the name of this really big retailer that has a lot of different foods from all over the world and all these spices and herbs. And anytime I go in there and try one of their raw dishes from the delicatessen counter,
yeah,
it's like, why is this so bland? You've got spices and herbs from around the world in here, and the food is bland. Well, oftentimes people are preparing the food who don't eat it. And so they just think, well, let me put some raw this together, put it on sauce on it. And it just doesn't have that wow factor. And food, it really needs to have a wow factor, a wow, healthy deliciousness factor. So that's soul, raw vegan soul food. And I learned this, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. My mother, my grandmother, my father, my aunties, the person, Brother Sunshine, who I've worked with in the kitchen. Food needs to be flavorful. It needs to be beautiful, because this is our communion with nature. It's our communion with whatever created and put us here, etc., right? We have to eat a few times a day. Well, some people eat one time a day, but it needs to taste delicious and look good, right? So
That's
it's
right.
a delicious nutritiousness, a nutritious deliciousness, right? So food is important. It's a time to have joy. So it shouldn't be boring. If we're going to do raw food, it can be gorgeous and delicious and nutritious. That's what I'm talking about.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's see. I was curious. Are you familiar with Atlanta, Georgia at all?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you know there's a soul vegetarian restaurant there?
Yes. I actually worked with some of the women in the kitchen there when I was pregnant with my second daughter. So this is many years ago. Oh my gosh, 30 years ago. And I also, but even before I went to that one, I was familiar with the one in Chicago.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one. Okay.
Yeah, so there's one in Chicago, and talk about some deliciousness. It's cooked food, but it's delicious. Now, I heard that they opened a raw place near the cooked vegan place in Chicago and in Atlanta. So
okay.
Check
yes,
out.
I think I've heard of that too. Yeah. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool community there of folks. Very interesting community there.
Right.
So now you mentioned that you had a restaurant that Little Eden opened for a year. Does that mean currently are you not running a restaurant?
I feel like I'm running a restaurant out of my kitchen. Because people said, okay, well, you're going to leave this location, but we still want this food, so.
All right.
I have people, I do pickup service, I cater, I do classes. Recently we did I did a class at a large senior housing facility near where I live.
Great.
And that was such a joy to see the seniors enjoy the food and just learn a lot more about nutrition. Because you go to these facilities and it's like everybody's got diabetes. So many people are on canes, wheelchairs, and that's something I'm seeing. Younger and younger people are on canes or these little motorized vehicles, little motorized scooter things,
yeah.
or little children, obese. And so the thing is about getting this message out, showing them that the food can be nutritious and delicious and how it affects their body. And talking with them about other things too, exercise. That's so important. Even if you're 90, you need to get up and move, So there's just so many things. And meditation, you need to get somewhere and get still and quiet and dig inside. Don't be bored. Bore inside, because you got this infinite universe on the inside. And so all these ways to connect back with self so that you can become your best you. People here are so full of anxiety about money, about maybe they're worried about their children, maybe they're worried about their own health, things like that. Well, the flip side of that is you got these options. So instead of being worried about it, let's understand that we can do something about it, right? So
beautiful.
You like health? Be healthy. Don't worry about being unhealthy. Be healthy. I like to talk to people to understand, don't worry about the next virus, the next bacteria, radiation. But what are you going to do? Wait for a magic pill? Or wait for a vaccine? We've got these phenomenal bodies. These bodies are the best machines to ever be designed, created, or built, right?
Right.
If I cut myself and I'm not bleeding out,
yeah.
I need to go see a doctor. I need to make sure that I stay healthy. So what? I can watch it heal. Which machine that's been built can do that, repair itself? But it needs the right nutrients. It needs the right supply materials to work with. That means minerals. That means vitamins. That means enzymes, amino acids. antioxidants. And so our food no longer has those things in it because it's not grown properly. They're monkeying with it in the laboratory with the genes. And so we have to supplement. And in the black and brown communities, this isn't something that we're not used to doing, being in a supplement community, kind of mind frame, right? Well, my uncle lived to 103 and he didn't take anything. Well, your uncle grew up in a totally different world. The air was cleaner. The water was not adulterated, right? People lived closer in family units because a lot of things that are tearing people's health up is stress. They're not quiet.
It's true too. You know, a lot of times everybody cites the one uncle or grandfather that lived to be 105, but they don't mention the 10 other people who died of a heart attack at 50, 65, whatever. So
that's
I tell you what, sister, if you have time, what I'm going to do, I'd like to hang up on you for a second and call you right back and do like a part 2 because I got a few more questions I want to ask you. But it'll be easier for me to process this if I do it in 2 sections.
Okay.
All right.
I talk a lot. You tell I get excited about this. I could talk forever.
Oh, you're awesome. You're awesome, and I'd keep you here all day. Let me just I'm going to hang up on you. Hang on for 2 seconds, and I'll call you right back.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
See you soon.
All right. Bye.